The Trump campaign has a new warning about the left's efforts to combat climate change. They're coming for your donuts.
Oh no!
According to a report in the Daily Beast, on at least 8 occasions since May, Trump has publicly claimed the Biden administration's climate policies are going to come after your donuts. That's right, they're going to take your donuts away, they're going to take your stove, they're going to take your hamburgers, they're going to take everything. In fact, at a rally in Wolfsboro, New Hampshire, last month, he said, quote, "When you have a donut shop or a food shop or a dress shop, you need heat. You need whatever. You need everything. You need trucks to deliver your product. Energy is so big, so important. Yes, you need heat. You need everything." I mean, nothing that he said there is incorrect. Energy is big. Energy is important. Then he said in an interview on Real America's Voice in October, if you make donuts, anything you make has to do, and when they ended our energy, we were energy independent. Think of this. I mean, it's just, it's unintelligible, but something to do with donuts. I know that. Okay. And energy independence, which again, we've never been energy independent because we get most of our oil, from the international oil market. What do you think? Like, the oil that we drill here stays in America? No, it's owned by multinational corporations, and they go and trade it on oil futures, and then we buy it from the oil companies. I mean, that's how that works. But anyway, there's more. During an August interview with his former economic advisor Larry Kudlow on Fox Business, Trump told Kudlow, "Fossil fuels are so big, it's like all-encompassing. Everything. You make donuts in the oven, and the trucks to deliver them, no matter what you do. It's so much about energy." Again, you're not incorrect. I mean, but there's a reason, of course, that happens to be fossil fuels that dominate everything. That's because they have a huge impact on Congress, on our energy policy, these companies, these giant corporations. And so, yeah, we're kind of at the mercy of these companies, because of course they're going to prioritize their economic gains over any other concerns, like, I don't know, the climate. But anyway, even when Trump mentions other aspects of the economy, he's been finding a way to squeeze in, talk about donuts. If you make donuts, if you make cake, if you're a lawyer, if you're an accountant, if you're in heating or trucking, no matter what you do, energy is so big. Trump said in a September speech in Makota, Iowa. I'm bad with that, apparently. But look, you would think that this guy is Homer Simpson the way he keeps talking about donuts and everything. Now, look, here's the thing. Biden's energy policy is not taking away your donuts. It's not taking away your donuts, your gas stoves, your hamburgers, cows. It's all nonsense. It's not real. It's not actually happening. Donuts, in particular, are doing great. Look, the $7 billion American donut industry is actually projected to grow another $3 billion by 2027, which analysts attribute to, quote, increased snacking and indulgence consumption. So people are having their donuts and they're eating them too. And do you know another, though, industry that is growing in this country? You might be surprised. It's actually alternative energy. Yes. Now, currently, the U.S. generates about 13% of its energy from renewables. Those are rookie numbers, son. You got to pump those up. By 2050, the U.S. is projected to generate 25% of its energy from renewables. So that is massive growth. It's not where I want it to be, but it is growth. In fact, renewable energy consumption in the U.S. will be nearly on par with natural gas consumption by 2050, according to projections from the Energy Information Administration, a government agency that collects and analyzes energy information. Now, coal is estimated to make up just 3% of U.S. energy consumption by 2050, and already alternative energy is dwarfing coal, literally burying it, if you will. So, look, obviously getting rid of coal, better for the environment, and you can only, of course, do that if you make sure that the coal miners actually have good, better paying jobs to actually go to. That's a very important part of transitioning away from coal. But we have to transition away from coal, and we have to transition away from these other dirty, energy sources as well, because only having alternative energies, renewable sources, make up a quarter of your energy, consumption use. Still not good for the environment. But the fact that it's only at 13% shows you that during the Biden administration, the so-called most green, lefty, fossil fuel hating administration in history, I know it kind of looks like oil and gas aren't really going anywhere and haven't really went anywhere during this administration. So that's really important there. And by the way, even if it did, your donuts are not going anywhere, because let's be honest, the only way that oil and gas would ever be replaced is if, number one, some revolutionary method were invented to, create energy, of course, and were able to be monetized. Because anything that ain't going to be monetized ain't getting nowhere in our current system. Or if there happened to be some sort of massive climate-related disaster that wipes out current civilization and convinces survivors to rebuild with cleaner energy sources. But how likely is that to happen, right? 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 Anyway, so getting back to donuts. Where did Trump get the idea to talk about donuts anyway? Apparently, nobody can answer that one, not his advisors at least. One Trump advisor told the Daily Beast they had no idea where he picked up the talk about donuts. They didn't even want to speculate, instead saying in a defeated manner, quote, "I have no idea." Wow. Okay. So look, now when right-wingers talk about the government, taking over stoves or getting rid of stoves and taking your hamburgers away, they usually end up saying something like, "But don't worry, we have a plan to stop the great Biden hamburger theft of 2023 or 2024, whatever," right? So Biden is apparently the hamburger now. But okay, for Trump though, he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't talk about it. It's just like, I don't know, I'm going to go talk about something else. And by the way, he goes on to complain about inflation whenever he brings up the donuts. And I actually I feel that one. We're all feeling the inflation. Trust me, it's not fun. Kicking my ass. But the thing is, Trump tries to tie in oil energy with inflation when that's not true. For one, you've got the effects, when it comes to inflation for food, for example. Climate change has a huge effect on crop harvests. And it's not a good effect. It's a negative one. Yes. Now, another thing that's been affecting food prices is war in Ukraine, because there's a gigantic bread basket of Eastern Europe. Then you have interest rate hikes. Yes, the same, Fed. And by the way, you can blame the Biden administration on that one, because the Federal Reserve under Jerome Powell has been raising interest rates. That's not good. And most importantly, I think in my mind, is the corporate greedflation. Now, a lot of companies have said, we'll just raise our prices far beyond the additional costs that we're incurring as it relates to all the other factors that were mentioned, just so we can skim some extra profit off people. We'll get away with it. And they largely have. And so all of that account for a much higher share of inflationary price hikes than oil prices. So, if anything, too, climate change is expected to make your food more expensive, as I mentioned with the crops and other things. In fact, a report from the European Central Bank found that food prices could increase as much as 3.2% through 2060. And, well, I mean, if that sounds, 3.2%, no, that's potentially devastating to millions of people. People who are on the margins, on the fringes, middle-class families, working-class families. It's going to have a huge detrimental effect. Already, people are very food insecure in this country, wealthiest country on the planet, and millions are food insecure, and it goes up by 3.2% over the next 30-something years, I mean, that's just disastrous. Now, that said, Trump doesn't believe in climate change. The right wing doesn't believe in climate change. They think measures that are trying to mitigate the damage are actually what's going to hurt them, but that's not true. Climate change is currently having an impact. It will continue to have an impact. It's going to get worse. It's going to get more expensive for the average person. At the moment, we're not actually really truly paying the price of our use of fossil fuels. I'm worried that the bill is going to come due, and I fear that we are not at all prepared for the sticker shock.